Alright, yesterday we looked at two of the main skills of factoring. We learned that factoring is the opposite of distributive property. We also learned that factoring means dividing an amount out of an expression. A brief review of yesterday's material. What we learned to do is look at 18 and 27. And again, I'm not going to go through the full process as you practiced yesterday because you should kind of have that down. But thinking about 18, the biggest number for 18 would be 18. That doesn't go into 27. Another number that comes to mind for 18 is 9, and I believe 9 actually is the biggest number that goes out of that. And then when it came to our t's, remember the way we viewed that is that this had 4 t's, this had 6 t's, and our question was how many they had in common, and so how many they had in common just so happened to be 4 t's. Again, what we learned is to take out the biggest number and take out the lowest amount of whatever that variable is. Same thing here, 15 and 65. I'm going to try this because I don't know for sure what the actual number is, so I will do this the right way, which is to put the 15 here, 1 and 15, 3 and 5. I think it might be 5 because checking 15, I don't think 15 goes into 65. And it doesn't, but checking 5, I'm pretty sure it does. There we go. So again, my biggest number would be 5. Now again, playing the game, you have to make sure you pay attention carefully. What I saw on yesterday's bell ringer was a lot of people who didn't pay attention to how many were there. But if in the beginning process you need to take your time and think this has 4 x's, that has 3, the lowest number is 3. This has 2 y's, that has 1, the lowest number is 1. That is your GCF. Alright. So today we're going to use the majority of our energy learning how to complete the process. Finding the GCF that we did up here is only half of the work, because after you find the GCF we have to rewrite the expression appropriately. The key thing here is appropriately without a lot of the mistakes that people make. We'll look at some examples together. In these first examples the GCF is going to be given to us, and then we'll learn how to figure out what's left over and then put it all together to end up the lesson. So what you'll see is something that says factor 14x plus 35, and it'll tell you that the GCF is 7. So this is the actual greatest common factor. So what we are doing is we're taking 7. Remember that factor means divide it out. So what we're going to do is write our 7. Then we are going to take this 7 out of everything. So 14, if you divide it out of 7, remember you divide for this number. 14 divided by 7 turns into 2. The x was not affected by us taking out of 7. The plus sign was not affected by us taking out of 7. And 35 divided by 7 turns into 5. Now how can you check that work? You can do the distributive property. 7 times 2x is 14x. 7 times 5 is 35. Just be careful to stop here, not to finish back where you began, because what a lot of people do is they do the 14 or they do the 7 and take it out, and then they multiply it back out and they write this answer, which as you notice matches the question, so it can't be the right answer. Now it does show that you got the right idea, but again you need to make sure that you actually stop in the factored form. Remember, this is the opposite of distributive property, which means your answer should look like a distributive property problem. Just do a real quick check in the end to make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. So again, take the 7 out. 14 divided by 7 is 2. X stayed the same. Plus stayed the same. 35 divided by 7 is 5. And that is all. Here, 24x squared minus 18x, and again your GCF in this case is 3x. What you will do is write your 3x like we did before, and then you will open up parentheses to create a distributive property problem. Again, this is opposite of distributive property, so it should look like a distributive property problem in the end. So what we do here now is we have 24 divided by 3, which is 8. And in terms of your x's, keep in mind this means that there are 2 x's up there, and we took 1 x off, which means that there would be 1 x left over. Again, that's what you're looking at. This is 2 x's here, and we took 1 off because it has 1 in common, and so that means that there is 1 here. Again, 1 plus 1 makes your 2. The minus sign does not change. 18 gets divided by 3 because remember this is a division number, which turns into 6. Here I have 1 x. I took that x off, which means that there are no x's left. Again, I have 2 x's. I took 1 off. There's 1 left. I have 1 x. I took 1 off. There are none left. In terms of the number, 24 divided by 3 is 8. 18 divided by 3 is 6. You just have to start off by taking your time and develop your system. We'll talk about it more in the second part, but like I said, that is the general idea behind it. But again, to check real fast, 3 times 8 is 24. X times x is x squared. Minus is, of course, there. 3 times 6 is 18. And there is one x there to end it off. Here, you've got a 3-part thing to factor, with 5x to the third being our GCF. So we're going to write the 5x to the third. Again, you'll find that on your own later. But for right now, what we do is, and here again, I'll just go ahead and start looking at it. You now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces that need to be changed. And so we're going to change each one slowly but correctly. 30 is a number, so we divide by 5. That turns into 6. What we just talked about, this means we have 3 x's. Well, we took off 3 x's, which means that if we had 3 and took 3 off, there's no x's left. So that's gone. Copy your plus. Again, that the signs just kind of come along for the ride. Now you're on 15. 15 divided by 5 is 3. You had 4 x's. You took 3 off. Subtraction-wise, that is 1. Copy your minus. 25 divided by 5 is 5. Here I had 5 x's. I took 3 off. That leaves me with 2 x's. And to undo it, now we check. 5 times 6 is 30. Yes, this does represent 3 x's. 5 times 3 is 15. 3 x's and 1 x make 4 x's. 5 times 5 is 25. 3 x's and 2 x's make 5 x's. Now again, it seems like we're taking forever on this stuff, but the more you practice it, the better you'll get, and the faster you'll get at that. But if you don't check it, you end up making a lot of silly mistakes, and you got to be careful about that kind of stuff. My printer's been acting up, so sorry. 21x to the 5th y minus 28x squared y to the 6th, the GCF being 7x squared y. Again, once you find that GCF, we simply put it on the outside of the parentheses, because remember that factoring means dividing out of the group. So again, now you've got, look carefully, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things to change. You just got to be careful. Alright, so here, 21 needs to be changed. Well, 21 gets divided by 7 and turns into a 3. X needs to be changed. I had 5 x's. I took 2 x's off. That should leave me with 3 x's. Here I have 1 y. I took 1 y off. That means that the y's are gone. If I have 1 and I took it off, that means there's nothing left there. 28 has to change. 28 divided by 7 is 4. If you don't know, just use your calculator. Here I have 2 x's. I took 2 x's off. That means there's no x's left, so I don't write anything. But here I have 6 y's. I took 1 y off. That leaves me with 5 y's. And that is what we are looking at on that. Alright. So again, if you have any issue with any of that on your worksheet, you should bring it up to me now so that I can try to help you understand what's going on, because now we're going to put it all together on 6 problems and go from there. So again, if you had any issues with any of that and you need a little better explanation or a personal explanation, please bring that up so that I can help you with it. You should notice the overall process, again, is simple. It may not be easy right now for you, but it is simple. We just have to practice it enough to become fluent, and that's what I was saying in terms of the time we're taking. Right now it seems like you're taking forever to do them, but that's because you don't have any fluency. Fluency means doing 2 plus 2. If I ask you what 2 plus 2 is, you say 4 immediately, because you're fluent in knowing what 2 plus 2 is. If I ask you what 18 times 17 is, you have to think about it, and so that means you're not fluent. So again, right now we are new to this, so it's not going to be as fast as what you are used to. But again, you practice to get fluency, just like you had to do flashcards when you were kids to get 2 plus 2 and 3 plus 3 down. Most of the mistakes that we come in factoring by trying to move too quickly, or just not paying attention to something as simple as a negative sign. As we said yesterday, factoring is best learned by experience. So let's just look at some of these things and get to the work and go from there. 6x squared plus 14x. I am going to use the process here on some of these just to make sure. So I did the factor tree for the small number. 6 doesn't go into 14, 3 doesn't go into 14, 2 does. So 2 is my biggest number. Here, x squared and x, again, that's 2 x's there, that's 1 x there. X is what I'm going to take off. Once I have my GCF like we did yesterday, open your parentheses. Now we are going to change 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces carefully. Again, start slowly and then eventually you get better at it. 6 divided by 2 turns into 3. 2 x's, taking 1 off leaves me 1x, and you need to be thinking about that whenever you do it. The plus sign just comes down. 14 divided by 2 is 7. I had an x, I took it off, it's gone. That's your answer. And again, to do a real quick check, 2 times 3 is 6, x and x make x squared, 2 times 7 is 14, and there's your x right there. You should always do a quick check just to make sure. Again, I wouldn't write it because otherwise you get in the habit of writing the final part and then you end up getting it marked wrong because you went too far. But a real quick check of distributive property should give you an idea. Looking at B, 14 being the smallest number, I'll do the factor tree for 14. 14 does not go into 21. 7 does go into 21. 7 does go into 42. That's 7 times 6. That means it's 7 is my biggest number. The second thing I do, again, notice everything is just slowly, not slowly done because I know what's going on, but everything is a process. You do one thing at a time. Find your biggest number. Now we go and we say 4 z's, 3 z's, and 2 z's, the lowest amount being 2 z's because they all have 2 z's in common. Then you open your parentheses and we are going to change 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things. 21 divided by 7 turns into 3. I have 4 z's, I took 2 off, that leaves me with 2 of them. Minus sign comes down. Alright, that's why we don't underline the signs because they stay the same. 42 divided by 7 is 6. I have 3 z's, I took 2 off, I have 1. Plus comes down. 14 divided by 7 is 2. I have 2 z's, I took 2 z's off, which means that all my z's there are gone. Again, a real quick check, 7 times 3 is 21. 2 z's and 2 z's make 4 z's. 7 times 6 is 42. 2 z's and 1 z make 3. 7 times 2 is 14, and there are your 2 z's at the end of that one. Just a real quick check should keep you in line for making any silly mistakes. Please make sure you add that to your work in the beginning. Now, after you do it long enough, you probably won't check as much, but in the beginning you definitely need to make sure you use what you know to make sure your answer is right. And what we should know at this point is how to distribute, so use that to your advantage to make sure you know what's going on. Here, 7a minus 28. 7 only has 2 numbers, 1 and 7, and I know that 7 times 4 is 28, which means my biggest number is 7. Because 28 does not have an a, we cannot take off an a. You might want to put a star by that on your notes because that is a tricky one. Typically when people see an a here, they want to take an a off, but you can only take it off if both of them have it, and we can't take an a off of here, so we can't take an a off anywhere. Here we go though, 7, and here we're going to change 1. 7 divided by 7 is just 1. A did not change, which means that we don't need that 1, so it's just a. Minus comes down. 28 divided by 7 is 4. Looking at this, 7 times a is 7a. 7 times 4 is 28. That is where you need to be careful. Okay. 14x squared minus 14x. 14 being the number, plus the first thing comes in mind when I see 49 is 7 anyway, but we're going to see. I don't think 14 goes into 49, but 7 does, so yep, 7 is the number that's there. 2 x's here, 1x there, means take 1x off. Open your parentheses. 49 has to be changed. 49 divided by 7 is 7. You can either underline them first. I think it might even help to just underline them as you go. X squared, I have 2 x's, take off 1. I'm left with 1x minus 14 divided by 7 is 2. I have 1x, I took it off, so it's gone. Quick check, 7 times 7, 49. 1x and 1x make 2. 7 times 2 is 14, and there is your 1x. 10x to the third minus 25x squared minus 20x. 10 being the smallest number. 10 obviously does not go into 25, but 5 does go into all three. 5 is our number. 3x's, 2x's, and 1x. Of course, again, the one they have in common, the lowest amount is 1. And again, now we change the 10. 10 divided by 5 turns into 2. To change the x third, I have 3 x's. I took 1 off. I'm left with 2 of them. Minus 25 divided by 5 turns into 5. I have 2 x's. I took 1 off. I'm left with 1x. Minus comes down. 20 divided by 5 is 4. I have 1x, I took it off, it's gone. Take your time. 5 times 2, 10. 1x and 2x's make 3. 5 times 5 is 25. 1x and 1x make 2. 5 times 4 is 20. And there's my 1x that I took off. Last one before we go to work. This will help to use and this is why I told people who use number sense that they might want to make sure that they at least learn the other way. 19 I think is a prime number. What I mean by prime number is that nothing but 19 and 1 go into it, because it's just one of those weird numbers. 19 can't be divided by 2, can't be divided by 3, can't be divided by 4. And notice how the answers are pretty much the same. And when I divide by 5, notice how those answers are smaller. And what we learned when we made our factor trees is that once you see that, that's all the factors. So we'll check 19 into 57 just to see. And look at that. It does go in, which means that my biggest number is 19. Now you look at your x's. We've got 2 x's here, 3 x's there. Our amount we're going to take off is 2. We've got 2 y's here, 1 y there. The amount we're going to take off is 1. Again, that's the skill we learned yesterday. So if you have an issue with that, make sure you ask about that today. Either way, now change all your parts. 19 divided by 19 is 1. I have 2 x's. I took 2 x's off. My x's are gone. Again, if I had 2 and took off 2, they're gone. Looking at your y's. 2 y's, I took 1 off. There's a y left. Because I have something here, it means I do not need that 1. Alright. Plus comes down. 57 divided by 19, I think we just did that, is 3. 3 x's, take 2 off, you're left with 1. 1 y, take 1 off, you're left with none. Real quick check. 19 is here. 2 x's are there. 1 y and 1 y make 2. 19 times 3 is 57. 2 x's and 1 x make 3 x's. 1 y is right there. Alright. I'm not going to give you a closeout part because the video was long enough that I think you need to just go ahead and get to the actual practice. Again, make sure you are checking your answers. Make sure you are asking for assistance. This is a one-day thing. We are not going to spend another day on this before moving on. As far as what I know, let me check my pacing real fast, but I don't think we do this for more than one day. Nope, we're moving on to something different. So again, be careful not to let today go by without trying to get a good idea for what's going on. Other than that, good luck, and again, make sure you communicate and work together effectively.